All right, everybody. It's the Combatcast with the man called Dave and Chevy. Gonna do a little something different today. Gonna do what I'm calling the main event episode. We're gonna talk about the main event of some key fights that happened this past weekend in different promotions, including a big boxing match we all heard about, and then this weekend's UFC Fight Night main event. But before we do that, we will go with Chevy as he will do what he usually does and tell us what we have coming up.
All right, May 6th, UFC 288, Sterling versus Cejudo. And moving on to May 13th, we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night, Rosenstruck versus Almeida, big heavyweight matchup. And then May 20th, UFC Fight Night, Pennington versus Aldana. I have not looked at that card yet, but that's not a great main event.
Nope. That might be another main event special episode too.
Right.
Because I think I like the idea of us doing this. Now, first thing we want to talk about is Bellator had a big card this weekend, and Patchy Mix with a beautiful KO over Stotts here. And did you saw the KO, right?
I saw the finish. Yeah, first round finish. That beautiful knee he caught him with. His very sneaky knee. Yeah. So. Shout out to Patchy Mix, Grand Prix winner, $1 million prize and a belt. I think he could do well in a super stacked UFC division, bantamweight division too. So he is a world beater.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk a little bit about. He's 18-1. His only loss was against Juan Archuleta earlier in his career, which was the decision loss. And Stotts, right? Stotts going into this, for those who don't know, he was 19-2 with his last loss. Maybe not his last loss, right? He did. He has lost to Patchy Mix now. Yeah. So going into this, he only had one loss, and that one loss was to Merab, who is arguably one of the best bantamweights in the world right now. Now that's not arguable. He is one of the best bantamweight in the world, but you could make an argument like I could see him being champion, and I could see him being elite. And he got caught with a spinning back fist by Merab, which is that's nothing you would normally see Merab do. So it's crazy. Right. And it really just got me thinking, like, first off, how stacked, we talk about the bantamweight division is in UFC, but just how good the bantamweight division is, like in Bellator and like just in general right now. Like, this is a stacked weight class and might be the most competitive weight class in all of MMA.
Right. If you think about people who can get down to 135 pounds, what other pro athletes are going to be at that size? So really, if you're that size and you're going to be a pro athlete, fighting is where you're going to go, unless you're going to be a tennis player or, maybe a few baseball players or soccer players. But for the most part, professional athletes are bigger guys. So at that weight class, you got to be, you're getting a much larger talent pool in MMA.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the big things. Like, we'll talk about heavyweights later. But that's like one of the things they were mentioning on the post show about how much athletic more the heavyweights are now as the back in the day. They used to be tougher and everything. And so I would say too, if you're getting that kind of jump in heavyweights, it's only natural that the more MMA grows just as overall, that, you're going to see these lighter guys even whoop.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But nonetheless, great win for Patchy. I know there's talk about him and Sergey Pettis at some point fighting. I think he's a great matchup for Sergey. He probably, I would favor him right now. But
he's so long. For the he kind of reminds me of, like, he has a frame like Corey Sandhagen, similar like striking style. He leans a little bit more on the striking than Corey does as of late, but just he's so sneaky, and the way he can just get his knee up there and you don't see it coming while Stotts was circling off and he got clipped, just landing right on the chin. He knew he was out immediately. Patchy's great. Yeah, he could be a face for Bellator going forward as well.
Oh, yeah, I would say so. I would definitely want to hang my hat on that. And if we were ever going to get one of those, like, crossover fights with the UFC, which I know we probably will never get, like the bantamweight division might be where you would do it.
Yeah, it's Bellator's, one of their shining divisions for sure.
I know that afterwards too, they were talking about the upcoming fight Pitbull has with the championship, and he's interested in fighting the best, he said, and fighting maybe Pitbull too. So I mean, here's a guy, he probably wants to go up in a weight class, and he probably wants to be a double champ as well.
Yeah, he could do it. He's got a lot of skills. So
now, big boxing match this weekend: Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis. A lot of hype behind this one. Two boxers in their prime, both undefeated going in, both with a lot of knockouts, both with a lot of charisma. And it was really something we don't really see. I had a friend of mine who ended up watching this, and he told me it was a letdown and not to check it out. Now, I avoided that text. I checked it out anyway. And I found the stream. I didn't pay for it. Sorry. But what I saw was very interesting. I was not bored. They did a great job. The announcers, Morrow, always do a great job. And it was more of a technical fight than you would have maybe expected, given the power both men possess. But I will say Garcia tried early to march forward. But that was round one was technical. Round two is marching forward, but then he just gets knocked on his ass by Tank. And obviously he felt that power. And so then the next couple rounds are a little more technical, with Davis probably getting the better of him here, here and there. And then round 6, Garcia picks it up a notch, probably wins the round. But then round 7, Davis finishes him with a potential like maybe hip or body shot. Someone was saying hip, but
I landed right on the liver. There's still frame shots of it.
Right, I was gonna say, body liver shot, because that liver shot is what's that delayed effect, and we've seen that enough time in MMA. Poor Cowboy Cerrone, he's been the victim of it plenty of times. So yeah, very familiar with that. Brock Lesnar was still a victim of that, and I've seen that delayed reaction. And it was very interesting because you can see Garcia just like he could not get up in time, like he was not like able to like present himself like he was all there. And I don't know, I felt bad for the kid, but at the same time, hey, hats off to him. He did whatever he could to make this fight happen. He had a lot of balls, but at the end of the day, Gervonta Davis was just a little bit more on this night.
Yeah, so like you were saying, it was that delayed reaction. It was about 8 or 10 seconds, it felt like, after he got hit, where he actually took the knee. Which you see that a lot in boxing. Especially with body shots, a guy will take a knee to recover, and then he'll take the standing 8 count and get up. And Ryan didn't seem like he could get up at 8. He did stand up immediately at 10. So I know there were rumors that he got hurt in camp, and I guess one of his sparring partners came out and made a video, although it looked maybe like he was being held at gunpoint or something. I didn't recognize the guy, but I also am not very well versed in boxing. But he said he hurt Ryan to the body. He was apologizing to him in camp. So it would make sense that Ryan, if he went in with a body injury and then he got hit to the liver, especially by Tank, that he knew that he wasn't going to make it all the way to the end. I heard that, it's possible he just knew he wasn't going to win that fight at that point. Also, he was down on the scorecards. Tank usually takes over later in the fight as well. Live to fight another day. But respect to both these guys for sure, because it's very obvious right now when you're looking at Fury and Usyk and AJ and Wilder and all these guys, and Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford, and no fights can get put together that these two made this fight. They call each other out on Twitter. They've been respectful, and the fight got done, and we got to see it, and they were still in their prime. So just respect to those guys for sure. They're saying Tank is the face of boxing now, which I would argue Canelo still is, but also if you hit a woman, in my book, you shouldn't be the face of any sport. But regardless, props to those guys for putting on a good fight in their prime, not running away and not hiding behind, lawyers and all that, trying to make these things happen.
Yeah. And the lighter weight classes get it done again. But on to the heavyweights. This past weekend, we had a UFC Fight Night main event.
Yeah, Pavlovich versus Blades. This fight went exactly like word for word how I said it was going to. I did not think that I just don't understand why Blades went in there and thought that it was a good idea to strike. I get wanting to showcase your striking. And you want to make a statement because it's hard to draw John Jones out right now, even if you are the rightful number one contender. You really needed to make a statement to, get that fight. And I guess that is along the lines of what Curtis was thinking when he decided to strike with arguably the most dangerous striker in the division. But it was a mistake. He did shoot in for one weak ass takedown attempt.
That time he was already worked.
Yeah, and it got stuffed. He got backed up to the cage and he got clipped and KO'd. And there's another first round finish for Pavlovich. He is a monster. He's going to make it to a title shot with like the least amount of octagon time ever. I think that John should be fighting him instead of Stipe. I love Stipe, but we talked about this before. I don't think he really deserves a shot. You shouldn't be able to sit out for multiple years and then get a title shot because you have a name. But I don't like when Connor does it. I don't like it that Colby's getting it. It's not a shot at Stipe. I think the guys that earn title shots should get them. So.
Yeah, and I would say I put this question up on YouTube. What should be next for Sergey? And it was interesting. One guy commented he'd like to see him fight a more technical guy like a Tom Aspinall or a Stipe Miocic. And I thought to myself, well, if Tom wasn't hurt and Stipe just wasn't waiting for this title shot, like ideally, like that would be a great matchup to see for him next. And
how about Cyril Gane if you're looking at technical fighters?
What's that?
How about Cyril Gane if you're that's a great matchup, I think.
And maybe that, if like they end up going to Stipe route, maybe that'll be a fight that he ends up taking. But I mean, I thought to myself too, I was curious to get like, do you think Sergey has a problem? I mean, because of his power, how do you think he fares with a guy like Stipe? That's not a fight that's probably going to happen, but if it was,
I don't know. It's hard to say. We haven't seen anyone be able to survive those shots except Alistair Overeem, who, caught him with wrestling in his UFC debut, but he looks like a different guy now. So
he does.
I don't see. And also he took a couple good shots from Curtis too, that didn't even slow him down. So he also has a chin. Not sure. I'm not sure that anyone can stand up to his power right now until I see it happen. I think he's on that same level as Francis.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Finally, main event this weekend, Song Yadong, Ricky Simón. Let me get the records here of these guys before we get started. Song Yadong, 19-7-1, 8 KOs, 3 subs, 8 decisions. Performance of the night 4 times, fight of the night once, and he's won 3 out of his last 4. Ricky Simón, 20-3, 6 KOs, 4 subs, 10 decisions. He's won 5 in a row. Fight of the night against Merab. He has a win over Merab, although
suspect win.
Suspect, yeah, not his fault, but that's just the way it was.
Yep.
And he also he has a loss to Rob Font, which was a fight of the night. I mean, I think Ricky Simón might be very underrated in a lot of ways. He got caught by Uriah Faber once when they were fighting, and Rob Font is obviously no joke. So I don't know. What do you think about this fight? Who do you pick in? What do you think?
Yeah, Ricky's been on a tremendous tear since 2020. He's very well-rounded, but his wrestling would be the highlight of his game, his best weapon. And although Song Yadong might be the most explosive guy at bantamweight, that really comes to his striking. His wrestling would be his weakest part of his game. So I think if Song doesn't KO him early, Ricky's going to drag him to deep water. He's going to grind out a decision win, I think. With that being said, Song is constantly improving. He does fight out of Team Alpha. I think they're just called Team Alpha now, previously Alpha Male. So his wrestling has been improving. So I don't know if it's been improved enough to stop the relentless Ricky Simón, though.
Yeah, and if you look at like Song Yadong, like he's coming off of knockout wins over Marlon Morales, Julio Ars, Casey Kinney, and his last loss was to Corey Sandhagen. So nothing wrong with that. So has a victory over Marlon Vera too. That might be his biggest victory.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think your assessment's pretty on. I mean, I think Simón's gonna. I would say if I had to bet, is going to be able to pull this off, and he'll use wrestling. He'll avoid some of those heavy strikes early. He'll mix in some striking with wrestling because he's a complete fighter. But I think he's enough of a complete fighter to keep this going, and he'll win a decision. I think it'll be an entertaining fight. But yeah. That being said, Song Yadong has definitely a very live puncher's chance in this, I think. But
sure.
Yeah, I think he'll have to catch him early. Most likely. He is good enough that like he could still catch him late. I don't want to take that away, but the more this fight goes on, the more I would favor Ricky Simón. So I'll take Ricky Simón by decision.
Right.
All right. That's it for our main event version. Why don't you tell people one more time we got coming up?
All right. Next week, May 6th, UFC 288, Sterling versus Cejudo. We're also going to talk a little bit about DJ Demetrius Johnson versus Moraes 3, DJ's potential last fight. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then May 13th, UFC Fight Night, Rosenstruck versus Almeida. And then the end of the month, May 20th, UFC Fight Night, Pennington versus Aldana.
All right, some big fights coming up. Check us out.